I'm Dr. John, and this is your Maintenance Minute. Hey, I'm going to talk about a subject here that's a little bit self-serving, and I apologize for that right up front. But I was working with an IT guy a few days ago, and he said, "Hey, John, you ought to do one of your maintenance minutes on maybe like the top 5 things to look for in a consultant, since you're a consultant." And I said, "Well, I never really thought about that." Let me tell you just a little bit a background real quick. I got out of the service after 11 years as an aircraft maintenance officer. I went to my first civilian assignment running a maintenance department. And I realized very quickly I didn't know what I was doing. Turns out, as an 11-year veteran as an aircraft maintenance officer, I didn't have the first clue how to run a maintenance department. Turns out Captain Ross never did. Sergeant Anderson ran it, or Sergeant Kalaniak, or Sergeant Schrock, or Sergeant Ald, somebody. The Chief Miller wasn't Captain Ross. And so this is before computers, right? So I get a little flyer in the mail saying, "Hey, is this you? Pretty much describe my maintenance department perfectly. Call this number 1919. And Del Bland, the owner of Marshall Institute, answered the phone and flew out to my little plant in Illinois and took a look around and told me, he said, "John, you guys really suck." And I said, "Yeah, I know." Anyway, I was very fortunate that the first consultant I engaged was Del Bland. And that went on to a series of other great minds in maintenance and reliability: Preston Ingalls, Greg Foltz, Tracy Strawn, Doc Palmer, Joe Kuhn. These are all still good friends of mine. Dell's unfortunately passed away, but I've been very fortunate with consultants, and there's something that they all sort of had in common. When I got to thinking about what would I say about what to look for in a consultant. So again, self-serving, I apologize, but I think this is a pretty good list. And I'd like to hear from you if you agree with me or if you think there's something else. So here's my top 5 list. I think first you look for someone who is certified. I want a consultant that's taken the time to study, sit down for a test, take a course of education, separated themselves from everybody else and got a certification. I'm a CMRP. The folks that I just mentioned are also CMRPs. You could have your CRL, you could be CAMA, CRE, I don't care. Just get a certification. Look for a consultant that has some sort of credential, some sort of certification. You want a consultant who is credible. Now, how do you determine if someone's credible or not? Are they published in it? Do they have magazine articles? Have they written books? Have they published books? Do they give presentations that you may have heard of, or online sort of videos like this, or something else that you can research? Do they have a body of work that you can look at and say, this is a person who knows a thing or two about a thing or two? They don't have to be an expert in your industry. In fact, it's probably better to have a consultant that's kind of been around to a couple different industries, because they can speak about all kinds of things that are possible. But also you want to look for a consultant that sources what they're talking about. Can they go back to SMRP? Can they go back to some ISO doctrine? I've been in this business for 37 years. I've written a few books and a bunch of articles. Sometimes I reference myself, "Hey, I just made this up, but let me tell you why I believe it's true." Maybe it's a theorem at this point, but I'm working on it and make it a postulate. I also want to look for a consultant that listens to understand what you are saying to determine what it is that you need. Here's a classic example. I have this conversation with plant managers quite often. They'll bring me in and say, "John, we need more reliability." Well, that plant manager probably doesn't know what reliability is. What they really want is more availability. Now, a plant manager knows what that is. If the equipment's more available, we can make more product. But they hear the word reliability and reliable, and they think that's what they need, and they don't really know what it is. I'm not saying that that's bad. It's not really their area to know that, but it's something you want a consultant that listens to what you're saying and helps you really arrive at what it is that you actually need. This is interesting. You want a consultant that does not say you're wrong. I was actually with a colleague of mine years ago. This person was very well respected, a consultant like me, highly respected. We're at a client site, and he flat out told the client that they were wrong. And what my colleague said was, if you don't do it my way, you're wrong. Hey, look, guys, Del Bland, Preston Ingalls, Greg Foltz, Tracy Strawn, all these people that I've mentioned, one of the characteristics that they had, especially Del Bland, if you knew him, he would say, he'd listen to how you're doing it or how you think it ought to be done, and he would say, "Well, I think that would probably work, but let me show you what I think you might be able to do." And then he would say, "Hey, go down this road maybe, or at least look at it. But what you're doing is not necessarily wrong. It's just a different way to do it." I think a consultant would say, "I've seen various ways to do this. Let's kind of throw them out on the table and see what really works for you." Another characteristic, something to look for in a consultant, is that you want a consultant that not just consults, but also educates. Hey, look, I want everyone to be certified. I want everybody to be credible and have credentials. I want everybody to be able to do the kinds of things that really key consultants are able to do. You have to educate people as you go along. That's how you really make it sustainable. That's how you really make it organic to the organization, because you're educating them on the value, where it came from, why it's important maybe to look at it doing this way, how you measure it. And they begin to take it and make it intuitive, make it organic, and then they run with it and they accomplish great things. Consultants are educators. If you're a consultant, or if you're thinking of hiring a consultant and they're not an educator, they're in the wrong business. Hey, look, this is just my list of 5 things to look for when you're looking for a consultant. I apologize for it being a little self-serving, but I think my friend had a pretty good point. Hey, someone needs to say this. These are my 5 top things. Let me know what yours are. I look forward to hearing from you. I'm Dr. John, and this has been Your Maintenance Minute.